Healthy relationships are supposed to be and are expected to be built on clarity, on boundaries, and on communicated expectations. One of the clearest signs of emotional maturity is how much you love and how you clearly communicate. Clock it. Hello, welcome to season 2 of Makamba. It's been a while, hasn't it? Have you subscribed? What's been happening to you in the last couple of months now? Have you binge watched the other episodes of the previous Makamba? Anyway, my name is Enobong Ezekiel, your host, Makamba, now Makamba Uncensored Dialogue. I hope you caught the last shorts that we did where we explained why we had to change the tagline from Unfiltered to Uncensored Dialogue. We're starting this season with talking about a theme titled The Relationship Between Self-Love and Healthy Relationships. It is the month of love, they say. February, the most talked about month about love. But I think it's also the month that exposes how little we actually understand it. And that's why today I am here to talk to you about the relationship between self-love and healthy relationships. My name remains Enobong Ezekiel, host of Makamba Uncensored Dialogue. Because a lot of us say we want healthy relationships, but we keep repeating the same emotional patterns, the same conflicts, the same disappointments. We make the same patterns, the same errors. So today, I want to talk about something uncomfortable, but very necessary. Still in the month of love. And that's the relationship between how we love ourselves and how healthy our relationships really are. Because we love without self-discipline, it becomes something that looks like an entitlement. And love without boundaries equally becomes something that becomes exhausting, becomes emotionally disarming the person that you're with. You challenge every surface level. Valentine now has become just thinking about Valentine love, but no one is paying a good attention to whether the conversations that go through this Valentine love are honest and not just romanticized. Think about it. Clock it. Somewhere along the line, self-love was rebranded as comfort. People began to look at self-love as things that I'm doing to help myself, things that I don't want anyone to be around, things that I'm doing, I'm loving only me. Self-love becoming something that is not judgmental, but it's supposed to be gentle. You know, a lot of people equate self-love with avoiding discomfort, and that's really not what it is. People look at self-love as avoiding accountability. Again, that's not what it is. People look at self-love as protecting their feelings at all costs. Again, that's not really what it is. Self-love is actually not soft. Self-love can be times when you're pretty hard on yourself. Self-love can be when you're very disciplined about yourself. Self-love is when you're telling yourselves deep truth and being honest about certain things that happen to you or with you or through you. Self-love is when you are choosing long-term emotional health over short-term comfort. And I'll tell you a little story. When I began to get into this whole self-love concept, I really used to think that it was big up and way up full of, me, myself, and I, can all I get all I can, sit on the can, and absolutely not having anything to do with anybody else and all that. I actually felt that is what it was. But I began to understand very clearly that self-love was actually being honest to myself. The things that I'm supposedly protecting myself about, are they really what they are supposed to be? The things that I now feel I have freedom to do, is it really accountability on my part? The things that I felt, I am comfortable doing this and I do not want anybody to interfere or to touch it or to do anything about it. Is it really right? Am I really in the right place? So self-love is actually discipline. Self-discipline, self-accountability, self-protecting feelings at all costs, but doing it in the right way. Choosing the fact that it has to become emotionally long-term health over whatever short-term comfort that I'm having. I recently became a certified counselor from the Chartered Institute of Counseling Nigeria. And one of the things that I brought into the table is the innovation of practicing counseling in the right way. And self-love is something that we do, because a lot of mental health issues out there is self-love gone bad. Self-love rebranded as comfort in a way that comfort now becomes judgmental, now becomes protecting, no accountability, and you just generally avoiding discomfort. Self-love is not self-indulgence. It's important that we take note of that. So when you're looking at self-love and you feel that, okay, I'm doing self-love to myself, when you stay in patterns that you know are unhealthy because those patterns seem unfamiliar, you now have freedom and you feel you can probably eat anything that you feel like eating because you feel you can afford it. You found yourself in a somewhat familiar place, but you're indulging in unfamiliar self-harm habits and patterns. When you're avoiding difficult conversations and you say you're protecting your peace, so you find yourself, you have conversations or arguments with people, with co-workers, with friends, with family, and then you say you don't want to talk about that subject, please let it rest, I'm protecting my peace. You are avoiding difficult conversations and you're calling it and rebranding it self-love. Or you're refusing to grow. You don't want to grow, but you're expecting others to meet you at your high standards, but you're still staying very beneath there. And then you're saying, come up hither and meet me there. How? You cannot demand emotional safety from others if you first refuse to give it to yourself. So my question to you would be, what have you personally had to unlearn about self-love? I had to unlearn quite a lot of things about self-love. So I'm saying to you, my audience, my community, Makamba community, what have you personally had to unlearn about self-love? What are those things that you assumed or rebranded to be self-love, but is not exactly self-love, but is self-harm to yourself and is not comfortable? What are those things? I'm sure some of you thought, because it's the month of love, I'm wearing red and all that, you expected me to come talking about romance and mushy things. Well, the romance and mushy things will still be there, but hey, let's talk about some hard truths. Let's talk about boundaries, expectations, and maturity in this, total conversation of self-love, boundaries, and healthy relationships. One of the clearest signs of emotional maturity is how much you love and how you clearly communicate. Communication has been something that has caused a lot of damage in relationships. Healthy relationships are supposed to be and are expected to be built on clarity, on boundaries, and on communicated expectations. Loving without boundaries doesn't mean romance forever. When you love without boundaries, it's not romance forever. It becomes resentment at some point in time. Resentment starts to set in because you haven't created the right boundaries. You haven't expressed the right emotions. You haven't ensured that you have communicated expectations. You haven't made your communication have the kind of clarity and depth that it is supposed to. So unspoken expectations, they don't disappear. Hey, clock it. If you don't talk about issues when they're supposed to be spoken about, you don't address issues when they're supposed to be addressed, they will not just poof, go away. They will always be hidden there, and then it will gradually result into resentment. It heads into broken down relationships and no communication at all. We're still talking about self-love, boundaries, healthy relationships, and we want to now dive a bit deeper into how we're seeing discipline as an act of love. Oh, I know some people don't want to hear this, but let's talk about love as a feeling, but not a feeling that would go away, because the truth is feelings don't sustain relationships. Habits do. Just like habits sustain a lot of other things. Those things that you're constantly doing. Discipline sometimes is misunderstood as punishment. So you hear a partner say, you don't have feelings for me. You do it today, you don't do it tomorrow. Or you hear a co-worker say, I've always asked you to help me out with certain things, but you're not always doing it because you just feel that you want to do it when you want to do it. Discipline is misunderstood as punishment. But in reality, discipline protects what matters. Discipline creates emotional safety. People who love well usually live intentionally and deliberately. You need to know how to regulate your reactions in relationships. You need to learn how to keep your word in relationships. You need to choose honesty over convenience in relationships. You need to learn to address issues early, not after the resentment has built and built and built. I know a couple during the COVID era. I cannot forget this. I needed to bring this up. The COVID era was a period where this topic would have been perfect, probably, where you're looking at boundaries and healthy relationships. And during that period was when the real them came out. There was a lot of resentment that had built up over time. There was a lot of pain that had built up over time. There was the issues of words that were not being kept. Reactions were flying all through the left, right, and center. The truth about how their relationship had built over time came to light. And that's because discipline as an act of love was not being practiced over a period of time. So it is very, very important that we understand that when we talk about love as a feeling, feelings are not enough to sustain relationships. It is a habit that we build every day, every week, every hour, every second, every month. It is those habits that sustain the relationship as time goes by. Let me ask you, my Makamba community, how does lack of discipline show up emotionally in you or in the people that you relate with? Because it's very important to thy own self be true. As I gradually bring this particular episode to a close, I want to say to you, to my Makamba community, healthy relationships don't start with finding the right people. I've heard this so many times, especially with young people when they are, trying to find a husband and a wife. And I hear, I'm waiting to find my soulmate. I'm waiting until my soulmate and I connect. Then I will know. Healthy relationships do not exactly start with finding the right people. Whether at work, you never know who that right person at work would be. When you get into an office, everyone comes with a different mindset as to how they want to relate with you. Your family members, no matter how blood is, as they say, thicker than water, you will always have a fallout. But how do you start having healthy relationships with your spouse, with your children, with your family, with your friends, with your co-workers? You start by emotionally becoming responsible. And I want to tie this to this month of February. As we say, it's the month of love, a month where love is supposedly everywhere. Maybe the real work is quieter, I don't know. But February, everybody gets into February and then everybody sees love. So everybody, I love you is one of the loudest things that I get to hear once you get into the month of February. And then when you get into other months, you wonder, did you not love me in this new month? Why are you not loving me? You said so much I love yous in February. Why are you not saying this in March? Please let us look at this as a month where there is more of self-examination and less of performance. You don't have to overdo things just because you want to show that there is love everywhere. The real work is actually quieter. What are the kind things that you do to your friend, to your family, to your lover, to your loved ones, to your children, to your co-worker? What are those things that you do in the quiet spaces? What are those things that you do when you are not overperforming and trying to show so much act of love? How much of self-examination are you giving in terms of this love that we are showing? So here is my invite to you, my Makamba community. Are you ready for this invite? Are you ready to go with me on this challenge for the month of February? So here it is. Challenge number 1, examine one relationship. Just start with examining one. Don't take 3, don't take 10, don't take 5, don't take 2, just one. Examine one relationship and ask yourself, where have I avoided honesty in this relationship? Challenge number 2, examine one habit, not 3, not 5, not 10, 1. And ask yourself, is this habit protecting love or is it avoiding growth? Am I growing at all in this habit? Am I protecting love in this habit? Am I avoiding growth in this habit? Challenge number 3, examine one boundary and ask yourself, what boundary have I been afraid to set because I feared being misunderstood? Yes. So a lot of people fear being misunderstood, so they are afraid to set certain boundaries. This used to happen to me, trust me. But I needed to examine those boundaries. So don't examine so many. Just examine one boundary and ask yourself, what boundary have I been afraid to set because I feared being misunderstood? Because love is not rooted in self-responsibility alone, but it is rooted in way more bigger things. And if you do not deal with these things, they become burdens to you and to everyone that is connected to you. And the most loving thing you may ever do is to grow. Grow in love, grow in your relationships, and grow with the people around you. So have you found this interesting? My apologies if your host did not do all the mushy things you were expecting. It's about time to think much deeper into this love. And we want a station where, we are self-examining ourselves in this month of February, this month of love. We're actually looking at the boundaries that we set to ourselves and to our, the people that we relate with. And we're saying to ourselves, what things do we want to see? How do we want to grow? What are those things we want to emphasize as we continue this love journey that we're in? And hey, February is not only the month for love. Love in March, love in April, love in May, love in June, love in July, all the way down to December. Show love, set boundaries, have healthy relationships with the love relationships that you have with the people that you share love with at work, at home, with your family, with your loved ones, with your spouses, with your acquaintances, with your best friends, with whoever that you share love with. This is Makamba Uncensored Dialogue. We continue to remain honest. We continue to ensure that our reflections are true and that the work that we do remains viable and remains valid. I remain your host, Inobong Ezekiel. This is me signing out. Makamba Uncensored Dialogue. I love you too.